All right. First, I'd like to start off again and thank everyone for coming out here this afternoon. As we had a late trip back from Boston College last night, but obviously much nicer to come back after a win compared to a loss. So we were excited to get out of there with a win. We've always had great games up there, knockdown, drag out games. We didn't play our best. We obviously turned the ball over way too much, and we have got to get that taken care of and straighten out these next 2 days before we take on a very, very talented Virginia Tech team. But I really want to start off today again and just thank Debbie Williamson from the ACC, supervisor of officials, for working so hard after our Syracuse game with John Livingston and the officials, interp people who write the rules, to get a clarification on fouling to stop the clock at the end of quarters, end of games. Because again, it came into play in last night's game where both teams fouled intentionally to stop the clock. And, it was a scary thought to think what possibly could happen if there wasn't an interp. There was one foul, and I'm probably going to put it up on social media just to thank Debbie to make sure it really gets out there, where we threw the ball in the backcourt to Olivia, the Boston College player, ran behind her, put two hands on her back to draw the foul. It was not an intentional foul, but according to the rules, before the interp, an official could call it an intentional foul if they wanted, even though everyone knows that they're just stopping the clock, but you never know what might get called. So the interp has clarified things now, and officials know it is just a stoppage of the game, stoppage of the clock. It's a common foul. It's a personal foul. So I really appreciate everything that Debbie did over these past 2 days, because I've been in this for a long time, and maybe there's a bunch of interps that come out during the season each year, but I haven't seen one myself. So I think it just speaks volumes for the work that she puts in, and I think it will have an impact in our game from here on out. Now, again, you don't very often see that intentional foul like we saw in our game against Syracuse, but now it's not going to be a worry that a coach could have that call is going to be made.
Jeff, going back to last night's game, when those 24 turnovers, I'm sure they're not all the same. They don't all happen the same way. But is there a common thread that leads to those that you address with your players to try and fix that?
Well, I'm sure some of you know that since we've talked about it, I do stutter and I'm colorblind. I'm red, green, brown. So we are going to have all of our kids tested here today to see if they're colorblind. Yeah, red, green, brown. So I'm thinking that could be our issue, that we can't see what color jersey we're throwing the ball to. So that will be our first step today. And then it's my fault, because normally before a game starts, I normally ask them, hey, what color shirt you wearing? And I always know I'm in trouble when they have to look down. And then when they do and they say red or black, I'll be like, okay, throw it to the team in red. And I forgot to do that before the game. So I'm going to have to take accountability for that.
Coach, we've talked throughout the year, and you specifically have kind of mentioned that with the depth, it didn't matter who your starting five were, but it mattered more who was finishing the game for you. And we've seen Nina in that role, and she stepped up in a big way last night.
Yeah, she played fantastic. No, she played fantastic the entire game. Without her, it's a loss. Just to be able to stay in the game in the first quarter, she did a bulk of our scoring. And then we're able to fight all the way back and created some turnovers ourselves, scored off of them, tied up. But then we could just never. We were, it's the old saying, we were 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We could never put a run together. We'd score, and then we'd allow them to score. We'd get up to a 5-point lead, and then we give up a 3-point play. It was maddening, to say the least. But Nina came up with some big time plays at big times, which allowed us to escape with a win. But overall, we've got to get better at taking care of the basketball. There's really no excuse for it. Our guards are turning the ball over way too much, way too often, and you can just look at it from the assist to turnover side. I mean, we have nobody that's even close to a 2-to-1 in the guards stats, and that's what you want. If you want to be a really good guard, you should be shooting to have a 2 assist to every 1 turnover, and we're not. We're lucky to have some that are 1-to-1, and that's inexcusable. And that's something that we've talked about, we've addressed, we've worked on it, but now it's just breaking bad habits and having the will to want to do that.
You got obviously another tough matchup coming up here with Vautech. As you kind of look at where your team is at right now, what is that preparation going to look like, knowing that you guys have been tested, and yet here's another tough one coming up for y'all?
No, it's going to be a great game. Every game in this league's good. I've said it the entire year, and everybody laughs at me, but that's okay. Don't look at a team's record. Look at the scores. Look at the scores of the games they're playing. Look at what the score is going into the fourth quarter. You know, because there's a lot of games. I mean, our game up at Pitt, you know, it's an 8 or 9 point game going to the fourth quarter, and then we win by 30. So if you look at the final score, you're like, oh, it's an easy win. No, it wasn't. And that's the way the Boston College game was. That's where Clemson game, Carolina, all of them. Everybody's good. And on Sunday, we're facing a Virginia Tech team that's got the reigning back-to-back player of the year in it. And Kitley, Amore's done a fantastic job at the point guard. You know, that's a kid that's got 177 assists to 80 turnovers. That's pretty damn impressive. And that's what I'm trying to talk to our kids about. We don't have someone that has the ball in their hands as much as Amore does to run that offense, and she does an amazing job with it. But you can still have close to a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio if you take care of the ball. So I'm expecting we've got the bottom bowl sold out, the mezzanine, the club's box, the boxes are, and now we're starting to sell upper. So it should be a great crowd. It's our celebrating Black culture game, and we're also doing a 502 circle flash give at halftime of the game. So hoping all of our fans will see it in them and feel the need and the want to contribute to the 502 circle. It just should be. It's going to be a great basketball game. I mean, they're a team that's coming off a Final Four run with their top 2 players. I mean, you could arguably say 3. King was a huge part of that team last year as well. So just expecting a great game.
Jeff, when it comes to Kitley, obviously a player like that, you probably can't completely shut them down, but just containing her from what the past meetings you guys have seen her, what do you think is the biggest key to doing that?
First off, I hope Coach Brooks gets pissed off at her at practice tomorrow and leaves her at home, or she misses the bus somehow. But I got a feeling he'll wait until she gets on that bus. She's just a big-time player. I mean, she's shooting 54% from the field. She's got a great little step back. She's got great range. Her footwork's outstanding. You can't just let her get comfortable. You've got to try to get her outside of her comfort zone. You got to try to throw different looks at her. But she also passes the ball well. I mean, for a big, she's got close to a 1-to-1 assist to turnover. Same thing with Olivia. They both are willing passers. And then you've got to keep her off the offensive glass. She's got 90 offensive rebounds on the season. So a lot of her buckets come from rebounding that thing and sticking it back in. And we've got a team rebound the ball for sure.
It's been in a lot of emotional games for you guys recently. To just expect that going into this one, it probably will be yet another one. What is your message to your team as you go through what it seems like might be the end of what has been a gauntlet for you guys over the past couple weeks.
No, it's not the end. You kidding me? I mean, we're at Georgia Tech on Thursday, who just went down to Clemson and won. And then it's Virginia here at home, who beat Carolina. I mean, every game's hard. For us, you've just got to figure out a way to fight through this right now. Our bye week was after, I think, our third game in league play. So we've had 8 straight weeks of a Thursday, Sunday, or Thursday, Monday, Thursday, Sunday, which it was last week. So it's our league. It's what you have to expect. But our depth is something that we talk about all the time. You look at our stats. Olivia Cochran leads our team in minutes played at 26.7. So it's not like we're running people in the ground for 38, 39 minutes every single night. So if they're doing their job as well, and that's taking care of themselves outside of the court, making sure they're getting a good night's sleep, making sure they're eating well, then they should be fine. They're 18 to 22, 3-year-olds. I mean, they're built to do this. Now, myself, at 52, it might be a little bit of a struggle to be playing as many games. But as a player, you'd rather play 5 days a week than practice. And we've really cut our practice times down to try to make sure we are being cautious of making sure they're fresh for games.
Jeff, you guys on the offensive glass this year and in recent games, it looks like that has become quite a strength for your team. What do you attribute that to? I know Nyla was really good at it as a freshman. Obviously, you have O, but is it a better team effort this year on the offensive glass?
Well, Nyla and O are a great tandem out there when it comes attacking the glass. And then, you throw a Kiki in there. Even Nina, is rebounding the ball. So you've got to put a body on everybody. We came up with a few big offensive boards in last night's game. And those are the plays you have to be willing to make if you want to have a chance to succeed, in postseason at the end of the year.
Coach, this is kind of off topic a little bit, but Caitlin Clark broke the record she's an all-time leading scorer in women's basketball. And can you just talk about the growth you've seen in the game from the fan perspective and the attention that college women's basketball is getting over the years, from when you started to where we are at right now?
Yeah, I mean, congratulations to Caitlin. I had the opportunity to coach her for a summer in USA Basketball. When we played over in Thailand in the U19 World Championships. Great person, great player. And in terms of women's basketball, what you're seeing around the country right now is what we've seen for the past 10 years here at Louisville. We've been one of the few programs that's been way ahead of the times in terms of fan attendance, a community that embraces it. We take great pride. I take great pride. Our university should really take pride in the fact that we've been able to sustain a pretty impressive fan base for 14, 15 years. It's not just been for one class that comes through, one good year, 2 good years. We have loyal fans because we've been able to put a product out on the floor consistently year in and year out. So what you're seeing nationally is what our fans have seen and what they've done for 15 years. So it's really neat to see the rest of the country is catching up with what our fan base has done. You look at the UConn, the South Carolina, all the ones the past 10 years that have really been loyal and done such a great job to continue to enhance women's basketball. And now other universities, cities, towns are starting to come out and embrace their women's teams also, which has been great.
Jumping off that, we obviously saw the announcement that you guys, Iowa, Tennessee, UConn will play in the Champions Classic next year. That event for the sport, what do you think that does for the exposure, not just for your 4 programs, but to have an event like that?
Well, I think it's kudos to the promoters to doing it for women's basketball as well. It's you've had your men's basketball event for years, and now they're like, hey, we're going to invest in women's basketball. And when they put that call to us and asked, I was like, yeah, we're in. There's no question about it. And then you look at the other 3 schools that are participating, and we'll find out our matchups here probably in the next few weeks. I mean, it's pretty exciting. It's a testament to them to be willing to invest in women's basketball.
Is that something they call you guys about, or do you?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Do you feel like the product we're seeing this year in women's basketball, do you feel like it's more entertaining from years past? Like, you played versus some really good UConn teams, Maya Moore, Tina Charles, Brianna Stewart, all great players. Do you feel like they just didn't have, like, the media frenzy, like the attention back then?
Called social media. So it's social media. I shot the same way that Caitlin shoots the ball right now. Back in 87, 88, shit, I used to walk across half court, nothing but the bottom of the net. Unfortunately, there's no film to prove it. There was no social media. I was just up there in a little town of Fort Thomas, Kentucky. And, everybody had their black and white TV, and that's all we had. So, no, I mean, social media's done so much, not just for our game, but for so many sports, that now you can sit there and you can see the incredible shot she hits to break the record seconds after it's done. Where you go back to Maya Moore and those years back in 09 and 10, our first Final Four, I mean, there was no X, Twitter, so you had to wait to hopefully see it on ESPN, your local news. And that's what I tell our kids all the time. There's good and bad about it. The bad is it's not instantly out there. You're not promoting our sport. The good is, if you played a bad game, nobody knew it except for the people that are at the game, and maybe a highlight clip that was shown. And then if they looked in the paper at the box score, that's what we used to do back when I was growing up. You would hope to, the next day after games, you'd get the local paper and have your box score. How many points you scored, how many rebounds you got, and then that was it. It might have an article, it might not. Well, now everything is out. So now more people are able to see how talented so many women's basketball players are all over the country. What Caitlin's doing is absolutely amazing. But I can tell you this. In 13, we're playing in the Final Four in the national championship game, and we came out against UConn, and I think we may have been up like 13-10, 13-11. I mean, it was right. It was a pretty good game for the first 4 minutes. Yes, I said 4 minutes. Okay? And then all of a sudden, Gino substituted this kid by the name of Brianna Stewart. She wasn't quite good enough to start. So she came off the bench. And they missed a shot. And I'll never forget, Bria Smith was right there boxing her out, and she went up, and her wrist was above the rim, and she tipped it in. And I was standing up, obviously coaching, and I looked down to Steph Norman, who's still on staff, and I said, Steph, is it wrong if I clap? Because I ain't ever seen anything like it. It was unbelievable. One of the most unbelievable tip-ins that I'd seen, similar to what she just did over in the qualifying tournament in the Olympics. Qualifying for the Olympics, I think it was against Germany. That okay, well, that's not all over social media because there was no social media. So I think now, because we do have the instant of being able to put plays out, clips out, show player success, it's bigger. But I'll never say the players are better because I'm telling you, I played against Maya Moore, Brianna Stewart, you can just list them all. I mean, unbelievable players. And Candace Parker, that were pretty damn good. You just didn't have the access to see everything they did instantly. But it is great that we do now, because I think a lot more people are starting to realize how good the product is. And I've said it, and the one thing I love about our fan base, I love about our city, is one of the reasons I've stayed here for 17 years, is this city will come out and support it. And I've told people, just come out one time. You don't like it, send me an email, I'll send you your money back. But once they come, they absolutely fall in love with it, and it's absolutely, it's contagious. And our job is to continue to get more to come out.
I got one thing off of that. You guys
Yeah.
have obviously faced Caitlin before. You might face her again next year if she comes back. Her skill set, is it about as unique of a challenge to try to game plan for someone like that who can shoot from pretty much?
Yeah, her range is outstanding. It's not just her range, her passing ability. How she passes the basketball, her court awareness, her court vision is really, really impressive. And what I love about the kid, and I pointed out to my own players, and when I talk to my own daughters, is how hard she plays. She's constantly moving. She's constantly playing at a high rate of speed. You very seldom, if she's walking, it's to set you up for a cut. It's not because she's not giving effort. And when you play at that tempo, you play at that speed, and you practice at that speed and that tempo, it's hard to guard. Because with the range she has, you've got to know where she is at all times when she has the ball. But what makes her unique is she's a willing passer as well. And I've said that for years now. She's an elite scorer, elite shooter, but I also believe she's an elite passer. And that's what separates her from several players. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.